welcome to the Ghosts of Harrenhal. My name's Simon.
And I'm McKelly.
Thank you for joining us for episode 35 of our chapter-by-chapter book review of A Song of Ice and Fire by George Martin. Today we're discussing chapter 34 of A Game of Thrones, that's Catelyn 6.
We'll chat about the chapter and try not to spoil any future plot points for you, and hopefully we'll provide you with some entertainment along the way.
We'll summarise what's happened, we'll discuss our thoughts on it, provide you some useful background, compare it to the TV show, and indulge in a little pedantry. Be sure to check out the show notes, they'll provide you some additional information about the characters and other things of note in this chapter. How are you doing?
I'm doing alright. How you doing over there?
I'm alright. I'm going a little stir crazy. I've really been confined to barracks, like completely, apart from walking the dog around the block. That's all I've done in the last 9 days, I think. That's the only time I've been out of the house.
Wow, well that's very responsible of you.
Well, I'm trying.
Yeah.
Plus, people younger than me are getting like really sick from this.
Right.
So
Yeah.
I'm a little bit afraid. All right, this is a long chapter, so we'll have to get cracking.
Let's do it.
Which is not a reference to the Greyjoys. All right, quick recap of what Cat was up to last time we saw her. She'd taken Tyrion Lannister hostage. She'd thrown off her pursuit by going east towards her sister in the Vale, rather than north to Winterfell, which was the logical choice and also where she told everybody she was going. Her little party had been attacked by mountain tribes and is now so depleted that Tyrion has been unbound and armed to help with their defence. He's already saved Cat's life. In the melee, Sir Roderick was injured. McKelly, why don't we give them the summary?
Why don't we? Alright. As Cat's depleted party approaches the Bloody Gate, Sir Donald Waywood rides out to meet her. He says she should have sent word that the road is dangerous, and Cat can't help but agree. More of the group have died since the last time we checked in, due to repeated raids from the mountain clans. It's now just her, Sir Roderick Cassell, who is injured, as you mentioned, Marillion, Sir Willis Woad, Bran, and of course Tyrion. Sir Roderick is not looking so good after his injury in the last chapter. Tyrion, on the other hand, no longer has the look of a captive, being both armed and without binds.
At the Bloody Gate, Cat has a touching reunion with her uncle Brynden Blackfish Tully, her father's younger brother. Sir Roderick can go no further, his wounds making him too weak to continue. Sir Willis stays with him while the rest continue on. Sir Brynden escorts Cat through the pass that leads to the Gates of the Moon, the ancient castle currently held by Nestor Royce.
On the way, Cat relates the story to her uncle, as Cat is wont to do, including everything from Bran's fall to the dagger and her arrest of Tyrion. I see you laughing over there. Brynden tells Cat her sister might not be as welcoming as she might expect, and that she's a different woman from the girl that Cat knew. When they reach the Gates of the Moon, Royce tells Cat that she must continue on, and the rest of the party will continue the next day.
After a harrowing nighttime trek up the mountain, led by her guide Maya Stone, Cat eventually reaches the Eyrie by morning of the next day. She's greeted warmly by her sister until the room is cleared. Once the pair are alone, Lysa's attitude changes completely. She becomes cold and angry towards Cat. Lysa is furious that Cat would drag the Vale into a war with the Lannisters. Cat then meets her 6-year-old nephew, Robert Arryn. He is as thin and sickly as Cat has heard, and begins breastfeeding. That's a 6-year-old nephew. Lysa has no interest in preparing or helping with a war. She believes they are safe and the Eyrie impregnable. The chapter ends with Robert ominously asking if they can make Tyrion fly, and Lysa saying they might just do that.
Yeah, so there's a lot in this chapter. But right off the bat, we probably won't talk a whole lot about it, but I just loved the imagery in this chapter of the Vale.
Yeah.
It had a whole, kind of some Shire vibes to it and some Rivendell vibes to it from Lord of the Rings. You know, they've got the mountains and the little hamlets and Alyssa's tears. I kind of just wanted to read a little few sentences about some of the description.
What are we here for if not to indulge your proclivities?
We just probably won't talk much about it, but some of the description goes like this. Looming over them all was the jagged peak called the Giant's Lance, a mountain that even mountains looked up to. Its head lost in icy mists 3.5 miles above the valley floor. Over its massive western shoulder flowed the ghost torrent of Alyssa's tears. And then, so that was kind of the Rivendell part. And then later when they're riding through the valley, cantering through verdant greenwoods and sleepy little hamlets, past orchards and golden wheat fields, splashing across a dozen sunlit streams. Good
And
stuff.
and if we're going completely out of order, as you appear to have taken us, I'll mention that absolutely none of that is captured in the TV show. The
Really?
TV show, they are on a sort of like narrow mountainous path until they're met by the Vale men, and then they're taken straight to the castle, which you never see the Vale. You never
Oh,
see anything like the Vale.
man.
All you see is this sort of impregnable mountain stronghold, the Eyrie, and
Yeah.
that's all you see. So it's as if it goes from mountain pass to Eyrie with nothing in
Right.
between.
All this beautiful description's gone to waste for the TV
Yeah.
show. But,
And actually, physically, the Eyrie is very different in the TV show.
yeah?
In the book, as we'll talk about, it's basically a vertical climb through three
Way
castles,
Yeah.
and those castles all act as defense all the way up this vertical climb. In the show, it was just a very narrow path on a bridge high in the sky
Oh,
up to a castle on a peak.
okay.
And so the only way up it was that road, which was very narrow and easily defended.
Yeah. Huh. Well, I like the description in the book.
Okay, I'm glad.
It's good stuff. So, there is a lot of content about the chapter I guess we should talk about.
Yeah, that's what we're here for.
So, Kat's having an internal struggle. Is she wrong about Tyrion?
Interjection.
Yeah.
Yes.
If so, this is all kind of stuff she's thinking about, actually. This is like her internal struggle in her head here. If
After the
so,
fact, internal struggle.
yes, exactly. If so, 6 men have died to get him here, and she thinks, what does that say about her? I don't know exactly what it says about her, but I think the facts are correct. 6 men have died to get him here, and I'm pretty sure he's innocent. So.
Yeah, she's a powerful lady. She's kind of used to men dying at her behest. Even if she's a good one,
Right.
This happens.
Well, one thing she didn't mention is that possibly starting a war, a realm-wide war with this maneuver. So
Yeah, well, that certainly seems like the logical outcome of this.
yeah, they were saved by they didn't make it all the way to the Bloody Gates. Luckily, Sir Donald Waynwood and some of his entourage had come out and found them, and he mentions to her, kind of backs up what Varys had said previously to Illyrio Mopatis in that Arya chapter. Remember, he said Stannis and Lysa had both fled his reach and are amassing swords. And he says, I wish we could keep these roads safer, basically, but Lady Lysa has all of our knights staying in, wouldn't even let them go attend the tournament. So
Yeah, but then that's not quite what Varys is afraid of. I mean, Varys is afraid of armed insurrection against the crown in some way,
right,
which is clearly not Lysa's ambition here.
It certainly doesn't
She
seem so.
is gathering troops defensively. She's worried that they are coming for her,
Right.
and she's willing to defend herself against them. So, I mean, not great news for the stability of the realm, and I imagine that's what Varys is really thinking about. But in terms of a sort of offensive threat, the Vale are not really
right
in the game, I don't think.
No, I guess he doesn't know that because she's out of his reach. But they seem to be on full defense mode.
Yeah, but I think it's a logical conclusion he should draw. I mean, he knows that she's fled for Sweet Robin, for her son.
Yeah.
She does not want him anywhere else other than by her side.
Mm-hmm.
And the best way to make that happen is to stay put and stay defended.
Yes.
So
they finally do get to the Bloody Gate, and she has a really sweet reunion with her uncle Brynden, as you said, Blackfish Tully, who's the Knight of the Gate, which is his title as, I guess, the guy that's in charge of the Bloody Gate.
Right. So the backstory on him is that he's the younger brother of her father, Hoster Tully.
Yep, 5 years.
And they by 5 years, right? And they fought a lot. They were never friendly to one another, particularly, it seems. And he was, interestingly, in the book, he was described as the black goat of the family, which I think is the equivalent of the black sheep of the family, is what we would say. But then Brynden pointed out that their sigil being a fish, he should be the black fish of the family, and then he created his own sigil based therefrom.
Right.
And also dubbed himself the Blackfish,
Yes.
and that's what people refer to him as.
He left. She mentions that he left Riverrun the day that Cat and Lysa got married. He told Hoster, his older brother, I'm going with Jon Arryn and Lysa to the Vale to serve them. And apparently, according to Edmure, Lysa, Cat's younger brother, Hoster has never mentioned Brendan's name since. So
it's interesting. I wonder if because it sounds like they reminisce about Cat's childhood and how her and her siblings, including Peter Baelish, her foster sibling, would all go to Brynden with their tales of woe and their childish stories, and he would always give them time and affection, whereas her own parents were too busy with other things. It's not coincidental that he left Riverrun when they left home, when they got married.
Right.
That was his last day in Riverrun.
Yeah, I hadn't thought of that.
They liked his company, and he obviously stuck around only for their company. His brother's company obviously drove him to distraction, and he wanted out of there. Which also, it's a bit of a slap in the face for Edmure, because Edmure was still... So it's really your sisters I liked. I'm out of here.
I hadn't thought about that. Yeah, that's probably more than a coincidence that he left when he did. He refers to little Robert as the true Warden of the East. And, that made me think it goes back to my argument previously about how the Warden of whichever direction really has to be the Lord Paramount of the region. Because in at least American sports comparisons, if you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterback. You need one person leading the charge, one person in control.
Yeah, and plus, I mean, when you made your argument, I bought into it, and this, again, just proves it all the more. The loyal houses of the Vale are loyal to the Arryns,
right,
not to whoever externally imposed Warden of the East.
Yes, in this case, it's Jaime Lannister, but yes. Right.
So Roderick can't go any further, must be in pretty bad shape, because... he's pretty stoic.
Yeah, that was
apart from on a ship. But unfortunately, the Maester is up at the Eyrie, more than a day away. Yes. So he's been left at the bloody gate in the charge of a Septon. So Marillion and Bronn both go with her. Marillion asks, she gives permission, and then Bronn doesn't ask. He says he'll go along too. And of course, having said yes to Marillion, she cannot really say no to Bronn.
Yeah, she's got some mixed feelings on Bronn. She mentions she knows he's a great fighter, and she knows they wouldn't have survived the Mountain Clan attacks without him. But she says he has no kindness in him, and he has no loyalty. And he is by title a sell sword, so loyalty is not exactly his strong suit.
Right. But I mean, she's certainly in a better position than Tyrion to pay for his loyalty in the short term.
Right. Yes, in the short term.
Yes, in the long term, if Bronn's a smart enough forward thinker, he might think, well, Lannisters are pretty wealthy. He may not be able to give me a roast chicken right now, but I could be eating roast chicken for the rest of my life if I work for this guy.
Right. So it's on the way while they're traveling from the Bloody Gate to the Gates of the Moon, which is the first castle. The Cat fills Brynden in on everything, and she mentions that it took so long. It took much longer than she anticipated, and I thought, but she's so practiced at it. I mean, I wonder if while they're on the high road, if she keeps going to the guys like, "Did I tell you guys about?" Yes, we know.
And the mountain tribes, yes, we're acutely aware. Yeah, she's a blabbermouth. I mean, she isn't really, but it is kind of funny to make fun of her for being a blabbermouth.
Yeah, it's just funny, yeah. But yeah, so it's funny. Well, this isn't really funny, but Brendan's first thought was what Cat's first thought was, that her father and Riverrun are the most vulnerable to attack from the Lannisters, and so Hoster, her father, must be told. And she mentions, yeah, I had that same thought, and I was like, so then why did you arrest him and make him your captive?
Or at least not send a message.
Right.
But then again, I mean, Hoster's done nothing wrong. Cat's a Stark these days. Riverrun is fairly well defended. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, they certainly have defenses.
Maybe there's nothing to worry about, yeah.
And you would think, Riverrun is kind of on the way to Casterly Rock. The word's going to spread fast. You'd think it might get to Riverrun before they need to officially send word there.
Yeah, I think so too. So Brynden fills Cat in on life in the Vale, where he's been for the last 15 years, I guess. The mood is angry since Jon Arryn's death. Lots of people are suspicious about it, and of course, Lysa fuels those suspicions.
Yeah, and like I said, they're all the Vale collectively is insulted about Jaime Lannister being named Warden of the East, a title that the Arryns have held for 300 years. So
yeah, but at the same time, those same angry lords are also very concerned about the strength of the Arryn clan now that Robert is nominally in charge.
Right.
A 6-year-old who doesn't seem like he's a particularly brave or lordly 6-year-old.
Yeah, Brynden mentions that he's prone to cry if you take his dolls away. Not exactly filling them with confidence that he's going to get the job done here.
So basically, the lords are sort of hoping that Lysa will either take a husband to act as a regent, or she'll remarry to have more children, and maybe get rid of Robert somehow.
And a lot of the lords of the Vale are specifically thinking that Nestor Royce should be lord, because he's been the high steward in the Vale for the past 14 years, while Jon Arryn has been in King's Landing.
Right. I think he's also angling for her hand in marriage, right?
He is, and she's already rejected him. Yeah. So, but Nestor Royce is the cousin of Jon Royce, Bronze Jon, and Nestor Royce is from kind of a lesser house of Royces. Kind of think of like Bronze Jon Royce, who is the father of Sir Waymar, who we lost in the prologue and then came back. Think of Bronze Jon Royce as like the Casterly Rock Lannisters, and Nestor Royce is like the Lannisport Lannisters.
Nice analogy, I like it. Although, I mean, Nestor's family home the Gates of the Moon?
I don't know if it's his it's the Arryn's family home because they winter there. So while they're in the Eyrie,
I see.
He is the Lord of the Gates of the Moon. When they come down, I assume they resume primary
he moves
ownership.
into the guest room.
Yes, exactly.
I see. So Lysa keeps rejecting potential suitors. Cat argues to Brynden that a woman can rule as well as a man. The Blackfish tells her that Cat maybe would be able to do it, but Lysa certainly can't. She's not the girl that she knew.
Right.
2 stillbirths, 4 miscarriages, and now Robert's all she lives for, and that is clouding her judgment.
Yep, and that takes me back to when I said a few episodes ago not to overlook Jon Arryn's idea of having Robert Arryn fostered at Dragonstone. That I didn't think that would sit well with Lysa. And as we see in this chapter, she's pretty attached to the kid.
Quite literally, yeah. Yeah, so I mean, her reasons for fleeing King's Landing definitely appear to be twofold. They're getting away from the Lannisters, to whom she apportions blame for her husband's death, but also to avoid the fostering of Robert.
Yes, I think that had a lot to... In fact, Brynden also, I think, mentions that she fled to prevent Robert from being fostered because King Robert was going to have that done.
Yeah, which, I mean, if you think about it, I mean, just taking away sort of a mother's love, which, hey, I understand, it probably would be good for Robert. He probably needs a little bit of toughening up. Dragonstone with Stannis, maybe that's a bit too much.
Yes.
Casterly Rock with Tywin Lannister, also a little bit scary. Maybe somewhere just a little bit nicer.
Right, there's got to be a middle ground somewhere.
Maybe Renly, sort of like, a little bit hard to read, but generally likable,
So, Brynden mentions that the Lannisters are what Lysa fears most, and Cat has brought the Lannisters to the Vale, and as she puts it, in chains. And he's like, I don't see any chains. I see a dirk in his belt and what does he say, a sellsword who's following him around like a dark shadow or something like that.
Uh-huh. But you know what? She made the right decision. I mean, if he was in chains, they'd all be dead 10 miles back up the road.
Right, yep.
So it takes the whole day to go across the Vale. Night has fallen by the time they reach the Gates of the Moon. Cat gets vertigo looking up at the lights of the Eyrie. So she's hoping that they've been told it'll take a day to climb all the way up to the Eyrie. Yeah. So she's hoping for a night's sleep. But once she gets there, it's announced that Lysa wants her Cat up in the Eyrie as quickly as possible, so she's forced to travel that night.
Yeah, and Brynden, you kind of get the idea because of Brendan's reaction, how odd and dangerous that request is, because he's like a nighttime descent, and especially the moon's not even full. Even Lysa should know that's asking for a broken neck. So we get the idea that this is not just something that happens regularly.
Yeah. Technically, I think it would be an ascent, not a descent.
Oh, yeah. Sorry, ascent. Yeah.
Hopefully not a descent.
I wrote descent in my... Yes. Hopefully at some point there's a descent as well. Slow descent.
Yeah, a very slow and arduous ascent followed by an immediate and crippling descent.
Yeah. There's one line where... so the way it works is the Gates of the Moon is the primary castle at the bottom of the Giants' Lands. I don't know how far down they are. I mean, but kind of at the base of where they are at the Giants' Lands. And then there's 3 way castles on the way up the Giants' Lands, which is the name of the mountain, that lead to the Eyrie. And we won't get much into the details, but they kind of decrease in size as you go up. The stone is bigger than snow, is bigger than sky.
We'll be right back.
Hello, friends. Are you ready to make some unforgettable memories? Well, if so, consider the Marriott Bonvoy program. Discover the perfect destination for your summer getaway and unlock exclusive deals on luxurious accommodations. With our affiliate partnership, you'll enjoy unbeatable savings and a seamless booking experience. Don't let summer slip away. Visit Marriott Bonvoy today and make this vacation season one for the books. Use our Ghosts of Harrenhal affiliate page to check it all out and buy Bonvoy points or give some as a gift. The link to our page is in the show notes.
Yeah, but each one is, as you're getting higher, it's getting more treacherous. You don't need as big a castle.
Right.
You just need a few. Basically, by the time they get to Skye, they just need a few rocks, and they drop those down smartly, and no one's climbing up.
Yeah,
there.
Exactly. And Tyrion says, if you plan on having me climb that thing, climb this mountain, just kill me now. And they mention, Brynden mentions that there's baskets that you could go up in with the turnips and the potatoes and the stuff. They're usually meant for food, but you could also ride up in them. And they come into play here in a minute.
Yeah, but they only run from Skye up to the Eyrie, right? They're not all the way from the bottom. I think everything has to go by mule
up to the sky, up
through the first few castles.
Yes,
and that's probably smart as well. I mean, you can imagine that if the baskets ran all the way from the ground, I mean, first of all, you need a really long chain. Secondly, they would actually be a vulnerability if you could imagine sort of an army climbing up there somehow.
Yeah. And this is where Tyrion makes one, well, at least at the moment, final plea to Cat for his innocence. He says he can't go up in the baskets, that there's Lannister pride, he can't ride with the turnips. And she says it's not pride, it's arrogance, avarice, and lust for power. And he responds with, he admits Jaime is arrogant. His father is, I think he says, like the soul of avarice or something like that. And Cersei, a lust for power with every breath. But I am innocent. Shall I bleat like a lamb for you?
Yeah. It's got to get her. It's got to get her thinking. I mean, she's already having second thoughts.
Yeah, but she's so far down this rabbit hole. Even if by now she's thinking, "Oh man, he might be innocent." What's she gonna do at this point?
Yeah. So, when they reach the Gates of the Moon, Nestor Royce meets them. He gives them something to eat, tells Cat that she's wanted immediately up in the Eyrie, and introduces her to Maya Stone, who'll be her guide up the mountain.
Sweet kid. She's a sweet kid, and she's apparently very good at her job. Everyone seems to really trust her.
Yes. But as astute listeners will note, her name is Stone, and Stone is the name that people of the Vale are given if they are natural born.
Right.
So this reminds Cat of Jon Snow.
Although she won't call him Jon Snow. She says Ned's bastard at the wall. She still won't use his name, which, remember, way back in Cat 2, she used his name for what he said. No, it was Jon 2, sorry. She used his name for the first time when she said it should have been you. So back again, she's not using his name anymore.
I feel like you twisted the knife there. You didn't need to remind me of that moment. But one thing it does mention that she feels some guilt, which is interesting.
Yeah.
That all this time we were thinking she should feel guilt about the way she treated John, and gets mentioned here. So that's to her credit.
Yeah, it's a little something. It's a little something.
Yeah.
But we get a lot now from here. There's a lot of description of, as Maya and Cat make their way from the Gates of the Moon up to the Eyrie. It's pretty cool description. There's not a whole lot that we need to talk about.
Yeah, it's not really germane to the...
Yeah.
Apart from the fact that it really does seem impregnable
Yes.
to invade the Eyrie. I mean, there's just no way you could do it.
Right. And one thing about Maya is she mentions that her boyfriend, Michael Redfort, said that she's so good at climbing that her father must have been a goat. But in fact, her father was not a goat. Her father is, in fact, King Robert Baratheon, first of his name.
This is Maya Stone.
It is Maya Stone.
I didn't piece this together. Huh. How about that? I read this whole chapter and it never even occurred to me. This is Maya Stone.
This is Maya Stone, yes.
So this is his oldest child,
It is,
right?
yes. She is his oldest child, yeah.
How interesting.
Ned just...
He was a bit of a goat, honestly.
Ned just referenced her a few Ned chapters ago.
Yeah, very recently. Yeah, I mean, I remember it.
Oh, it was the Gendry chapter, recent. Right? Was it? Or maybe it was about Gendry.
No, I think it was. No, it was after that. He was reminiscing about how. Maybe it was Gendry, because he was reminiscing about how fond Robert was of his children.
Right. Yeah.
It was in that chapter.
I think he was thinking, why is Gendry so special? He's got Edric Storm in Storm's End, and he's got Maya Stone in the Vale.
I think it was the chapter. I think it was basically the last chapter. It was when Ned quit his hand. It was when he was thinking after quitting his hand.
Oh, was it? Okay, well then that was like just the
last chapter, I think. Just give or take. Which is why I remember. Hey, Maya Stone. I didn't remember when I was reading it. I was like, who's this Maya Stone person?
But aside from that...
Maya Stone. We're gonna edit all this out and go, oh yeah, Maya Stone. That's the daughter of King Robert.
But aside from that detail, it's just a harrowing climb, like Simon mentioned in the summary. They go from castle to castle, and a near-death experience. Cat is pretty sure she's about to die, and it ends with her in a food basket. She said, "I'm not too proud to ride with the turnips." So.
Yeah, neither would I be. I mean, it's exhausting to read this, to actually. I mean, she's ridden for days without a proper rest, and then she's ridden all day across the Vale and then climbed up a mountain all night.
Yeah. In fact, at one point she falls asleep on the mule. It seems
on
like
the mule. Yeah. So she reaches the Eyrie first thing in the morning, and she's met by Savardis Egan and Maester Coleman. It's small by the standards of most great castles, but hey, it's perched on a mountain. You do what you can in terms of building. Of course, it doesn't need smiths, kennels, stables, any of that stuff, because nothing can get up there. But it does have a huge granary, so it's basically invulnerable to siege as well.
At least it would take a long time to siege.
Yeah, I mean,
if you sat there long enough,
they get bored of porridge.
Right, we give up. But she mentions that it's oddly empty, that there's hardly anybody around when she's walking through it. The hallways are empty and stuff. So
it's early,
and it's hard to get up to.
Yes, sensible people are still abed.
Tyrion does mention when they look up, and when Cat gets the vertigo looking up so high, he says the Arryns must not be fans of company.
Yeah. Oh, he's a good one. He's funny. He's funny, that Tyrion. So the 5 years haven't been kind to Lysa, in Cat's opinion. She's 2 years younger, but now she looks older. She's gained weight. She's puffy-faced. So while everybody's in the room with her, so that would be Maester Coleman, Sir Vardis Egan, and
I think
Lysa's own servants.
Yes. I think there was some servant.
She's perfectly pleasant and seems like this won't be so bad. But then she dismisses everyone but Cat, and then her demeanor changes. Have you taken leave of your senses, bringing him here without word of permission, without so much as a warning to drag us into your quarrels with the Lannisters? Yeah. Which, of course, that's ironic because Cat sees this as first and foremost Lysa's quarrel with the Lannisters.
Exactly, that's her response. Our quarrel? This was your quarrel first, sister.
But then, obviously, the code was not as easy to break as Cat thought, because the coded message meant, the Lannisters killed my husband. Don't, whatever you do, go anywhere near them or get involved with them in any way. What Cat read was, the Lannisters killed my husband. Seek revenge.
Well, see, what happened was she burnt that letter so quickly she forgot to flip it over. There was a whole
PS.
second page on the back that said,
Gotcha.
"Don't get involved."
That makes so much sense. Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty much what she says. I told you that so you could stay away from them. I never meant to fight them.
Yeah. So little Robert enters the room. Cat describes him as painfully thin, small for his age, shaking, sickly.
Yeah.
She compares him to Rickon. we love Rickon. He's just a great backdrop character to the whole thing.
I like how she worded it too. She said she remembers her son Rickon, and I was like, "You remember? You remember?
Yeah,
Son
finally.
remembered Rickon."
I wonder where he is. That he's half Robert's age, but 5 times as fierce.
Yeah.
But to be fair to Robert, Rickon is clearly pretty feral.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of parenting going on with that child.
Literally being raised by wolves right now.
Yes.
But
So Cat continues to discuss matters of importance and state with Lysa, but Lysa shoots her down that she's not to speak like that in front of the baby.
yeah, Lysa says, "He's the Lord of the Eyrie and defender of the Vale."
And if you want, true Warden of the East as well, you know.
Yeah, so you can kind of get the rest of the Vale's concern. If anybody who's met this kid, you might be like, this is our defender of the Vale.
Yeah, which is, again, why every one of them would be like, let's go get him fostered somewhere,
Right.
somewhere brutal. It's going to bring him up right.
I know where. Pike.
Pike, oh, man. Man.
Those Greyjoys would really toughen that kid up.
Yeah, Winterfell.
Yeah.
Winterfell would be a good choice.
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know? Of course, there's no one there. I mean, he'd be raised by Rickon, basically. But that would toughen him up. No more breast milk from his mother. It's from the wolves.
Oh, man. We sure crack ourselves up.
We do. That's why we do this. Yeah. So Robert begins breastfeeding. Cat thinks, is this really John Arryn's son?
Yeah.
And Lysa is, but he said the seed is strong. That was his last words. He was saying how strong his son is, but
I'm not sure that's what he meant.
if he did, he was delirious because there's nothing strong about this seed.
Did they mention whether the tears of Lys also create delusion as one of its symptoms? If so, maybe that's what he meant.
Things that shake appear very solid. Things that are thin appear stout.
Yeah, but she mentions, is this really John Arryn's son? Well, she doesn't mention it. Good Lord, that wouldn't go over well. But she thinks it,
No.
and it's come up at least. I know Brynden, her uncle Brynden Blackfish Tully mentions the same thing, that by all accounts, he's John Arryn's son. He's not saying I don't think he's John Arryn's son, but he's saying, boy, by all accounts, he's John Arryn's son, but it sure doesn't fit the bill. And it got me wondering, Lysa's in her early 30s now, and John Arryn's in his late 70s. It's possible that he could be someone else's son.
Oh, well.
I'm not saying.
How about that?
I'm just saying.
But I mean, you can have a child that's not like. I mean, look at Molly Ray. She's cute and sweet and delightful.
That's true. Good.
Apple could not have fallen further from the tree.
You make a solid point. The defense rests.
But she does look like you. So Lysa is adamant that they're safe from Lannister attack. The Eyrie does appear impregnable. Cat tells her no castle is.
Yeah, it's very rare that I think I will be agreeing with Lysa, but on this one, it feels pretty impregnable.
Yeah, it kind of depends. I mean, like we said, I mean, it's extremely well. I guess getting into the Vale is very difficult too. I mean, that's the thing. There's 2 things you've got to do to defeat the Arryns. You've got to invade the Vale and then somehow get them out of the Eyrie.
Right.
Now the second half of that is clearly just a siege. You just lay siege to them and just wait them out, just starve them out. I mean,
Yep.
we know how that feels right this moment. Yeah, we're all stuck here. I'm having oatmeal every day. We haven't shopped for 2.5 weeks
Wow, you are seriously responsible citizens.
now. We're
Making your
trying
own
to
toilet paper.
be reusing. So that part of it is clear what you have to do, and it wouldn't take that big of a force to lay siege to it, because you could just, in the same way it's hard for an army to climb up, it's hard for an army to climb down.
Right.
You would only need a few hundred men to stop anyone getting out of the Eyrie.
Right.
But the hard part is getting into the Vale, because to get into the Vale, you've got to run the gauntlet of the hill tribes.
Right.
Okay, you've got a big enough army, they're going to stay clear of you. But then you've got to get through the bloody gate.
Yes.
And that one is a tough nut to crack.
That, I think, as she says, 12 armies have smashed themselves to bits on the bloody gate trying to get through.
And the Vale is rich and fertile. There's no way to lay siege to the bloody gate. You've got to get through there somehow.
Yeah.
And it seems that maybe that one is. That's why you might think this genuinely is impregnable.
And it's also it's an incredibly narrow part in the pass. I think she said only 4 people abreast at that point. So anyway, we'll talk about the bloody gate here in a minute. Yeah. But she realizes that Brynden did try to warn her that Lysa is a different person than the Lysa she knew, and doesn't look like she's going to have a lot of rational conversations with her dear sister.
Yeah. But keep the servants around is the secret. At least then. It's only when they were out of the room things got out of hand. So young Robert asks Lysa if they can make the bad man, Tyrion, fly. Lysa says perhaps that's just what we'll do. So obviously I'm not exactly sure what they're talking about, but they're up on a very high mountain, and there's a suggestion that throwing people off said mountain might be the traditional way of punishing people.
When Cat looks up from the gate to the moon, looks up and up and up and gets vertigo, she says, "Up where the falcons fly." So things are flying up there.
Yep. I'm thinking Tyrion wouldn't fly.
No, I don't think
Not
so.
for long.
No.
Yes. All right, you got some background?
Sure. So let's talk about the Bloody Gate real quick. So, as we mentioned, the Bloody Gate is a series of battlements. As we know, it's located on the high road which leads into the Vale proper from the Mountains of the Moon. There are 2 long parapets built into the stone of the mountain. Like I mentioned, the high road is very narrow here, and the 2 towers are joined by a covered bridge that arches above the road. Defenders can fire through arrow slits in the towers, bridge, and battlements, and it's said the Bloody Gate can provide respite for at least a few thousand men. And the commander of the gate is called the Knight of the Gate, which currently the distinction goes to Brynden Blackfish Tully. His question that he asked Cat and Sir Donal when they met at the Bloody Gate, who would pass the Bloody Gate, is the standard question he asks all who wish to enter. It was originally a rough-hewn, unmortared wall until Osric V, Arryn, king of the mountain and the Vale, had it built into the structure that it is today. And like Cat mentioned, a dozen armies, and I think I just mentioned this a few minutes ago, a dozen armies have smashed themselves to bits upon the gate. Most famously, Halleck Hor, remember, that's Hoare.
Hoare.
The king of the Isles and the Rivers, and father of Harren the Black, who built Harrenhal.
Harrenhal. Name check.
So Halleck Hor failed to conquer the Bloody Gate 3 times himself. So.
We'll be right back.
This episode is sponsored by Audible. To get a free audiobook, or 2 if you're an Amazon Prime member, go to our exclusive URL, audibletrial.com/ghostsharrenhal. You can find the link in our show notes.
To be honest, I would see that as something of a success. I mean, to actually get a couple more bites at that cherry. Most people would die. So he was actually one of the more successful invaders. So the other castle that gets a mention here is the Gates of the Moon. The Gates of the Moon was the first seat of House Arryn in the Vale. The castle is actually larger than the Eyrie because it's easier to build on the floor than it is to build on the top of a mountain.
Sure.
However, the Gates of the Moon was considered by some to be not suitable for kings, and the fourth Arryn monarch, Roland I, found it lacking in comparison to Grand Casterly Rock and Hightower. He thought of rebuilding, but instead decided to build the Eyrie high on the Giant's Lands. So the Gates of the Moon has since been used by House Arryn as their seat during winter.
Aha.
You told me this.
I do know a few things.
The keepers of the gate, you do. The keepers of the Gates of the Moon, currently Nestor Royce, have since held the castles for the Arryns. So, comparison with the television show?
Yes, let's hear. Oh, you told us some already, I guess, at the very beginning.
I did. Well, I didn't really mention it. I wasn't actually going to cover that. It's just because you were so waxing lyrical about the Vale. I was mentioning that there was no real mention of the Vale. There are some other big differences. They are met on the road by Savardis Egan, who in the book we only meet Savardis when she gets into the Eyrie.
Okay, so he basically replaces Sir Donald Waynwood.
He replaces Sir Donald Waynwood and Brynden Blackfish Tully, who does not appear at all in this.
Wow. Okay.
It's Sir Waynwood who marches them through the bloody gate, and the Gates of the Moon doesn't even exist here because it's just a causeway to the Eyrie.
Okay.
So, and again, you don't see anything but the causeway and the castle, really. So it looks more like a remote mountain retreat than a mountain retreat adjacent to a very well protected and fertile valley. So it does look a lot more vulnerable.
Okay.
In the show. There's no separation of Cat from the rest of the crew. This whole nighttime climb doesn't happen. They all go up there together because it isn't as difficult to get up there. It's just a long march along an exposed and narrow causeway.
Okay.
So they just all go en masse. The interview with Lysa is not in private. Cat's entire company is present. Robert is there from the get-go. And Lysa is just as crazy in front of everybody as she is in private.
She's not putting on pretenses.
No,
she's keeping it
no.
real.
Yeah. So and the disturbing breastfeeding also occurs. Something's just occurred to me actually. All of the wolves in Winterfell are male, so the whole drinking milk from the wolves,
right?
It's getting even worse.
Yeah. So. Nymeria is gone, and Lady is no longer with us.
Very gone.
Yes.
Yeah. Pedantry.
So what I was meaning there is it's just a little thing, but so when Sir Brynden offers Tyrion the option of riding up in the turnip basket, and he says that his father would be too ashamed of him if he did that, and so he can't consider doing that. I thought, I don't know that Tyrion would really care that his father would be disappointed in him.
in some ways, that sort of undermines his separation from the rest of his family that he claimed when he was claiming to be innocent as a lamb, because he wouldn't care about their feelings as much. And
yeah, just a little thing, but I thought it just feels a little bit out of character for Tyrion.
Yeah, I mean, just focusing back on the TV show again, just a little bit. I'm really glad we got to meet Blackfish in this chapter. I think he's a fascinating character.
Me too.
And I'm really curious as to what the animosity is between him and his brother. I certainly don't remember it, so I'm looking forward to refinding it out.
I know. So I know some of the reasons that Hoster's not is irked with Brynden. I'm not sure I can remember everything, but there is. In fact, Cat alludes to it in this chapter when Brynden says to Cat about Lysa says she's going to choose her own husband this time, and Cat says, "You of anyone shouldn't fault her for that."
So he wanted to marry someone, or did not want to marry someone.
He did not want to marry someone, exactly.
I see.
His big brother wanted him to marry someone.
Interesting. That would be really annoying.
Right.
I mean, your father telling you you're going to marry someone, yeah, that's one thing, but your big brother doing it? I don't have a big brother. I am a big brother. But I can imagine trying to get my little brother to do something like that. That wouldn't go well.
No, I could see that. I could definitely see that.
So we're spending a lot of time in Westeros at the moment, but I was trying to think why that was, and I think partly it's because last time we saw Dany, we jumped forward to her being pregnant. So we gave ourselves a couple of months of Dany free time to keep developing what was going on in Westeros. Presumably when we go back to Dany, she'll be 4 or 5 months along, and that will make sense.
Yeah, that's true. You know who else is spending a lot of time in Westeros is George Martin. If you keep up with his blog, he mentions that because of the whole quarantine situation, he's been doing a lot of writing lately. So
we should not let him know when the quarantine is.
Just keep him in there. Keep him in the dark.
We just pull the plug on his internet and just, a feed of yesterday's news every day.
Right. It's Groundhog's Day for him.
Well, that's exciting.
Hopefully it means something.
Yeah. Plus, it's good that he's quarantining himself away.
Yes,
guy's
absolutely.
Not the first flush of youth, and definitely doesn't want to catch it.
Yes.
Just to let you know, my brother started a email thread with my extended family back home.
Is that the one you tried to forward me, but my inbox was full?
Correct, yes. And this thread has now broken down into a long list of laughing at my American accent. That's what's happened. Everyone's like, listen to that guy. He sounds like an idiot.
You're a pirate / John Wayne.
Exactly.
With just a hint of oh shoot, what's her name?
Oh, yes.
Scarlett O'Hara.
Not Rhett Butler. Scarlett O'Hara. That's it. Yeah.
Just a hint of Scarlett O'Hara.
Which I think is how Jon Stewart does Lindsey Graham. Oh, the vapors! Lordy, I do declare. Other thing I was going to tell you was I see all of those people when I go to England, but when I'm in England, my accent fades back into its Englishness. You see, so they're all really surprised by how I sound. So it's literally talking to you makes this.
I'm having a negative influence on you.
Well, an influence.
Right.
Some might see it as negative, some might see it as positive. But I'm sure they're going to boost our numbers dramatically, the mighty Clan McGregor.
All right. I would like to see it.
All right. So let's conclude. So Cat is finally having the internal struggle about Tyrion's innocence and guilt that she should have had before she dragged him off to the Vale.
Yeah, it's definitely a heavy cost to get him to the Eyrie. Aside from the 6 men that have died in the process, which is, very sad in its own right, she could be well on her way home to her 3 sons.
I was prepping for the same joke. I was going to say to see.
I could see it in your face.
I was all ready to go to see Bran. I've forgotten the other one's name. Rob and the other one.
The third one.
Yeah. Why are there 3 wolves? Oh, that's right.
Where is that kid?
Yeah. So. And also, I guess the other thing it's doing is now she's having to confront the possible craziness of her sister, which she could perhaps have lived without being exposed to.
Yes. It's not looking like if it does come to war, she's going to get a ton of help from the Vale.
No, they won't work against.
It doesn't seem like it, yeah.
But they're not going to work for either.
And I'm guessing the Starks would be expecting to count on Lady Stark's sister to help out. It doesn't look like it's.
Although, I guess the hope, if a big war comes, is that other lords of the Vale impress upon her the need. She's at the moment she's saying no, but if open war happens, they might.
Right.
Obviously, the voices telling her we've got to go out there and do something will increase in volume. Robert Arryn doesn't inspire a lot of confidence.
No.
Literally, Jaime is a better Lord of the East.
Right. He doesn't have the Vale's best interest at heart at all, but he can't be worse.
Yeah.
But you wonder, could it cause a coup? Is that?
Yeah. I think for now the Lords of the Vale will. Obviously she's an Arryn now,
right?
And there's a lot, a long tradition. This is an old noble family. They're not going to usurp. They would rather usurp through marriage, through cajoling. They're not going to. But at some point, you could put. She's not actually an Arryn.
Yeah.
Put her in a jail cell and say, "I'm taking over until Robert's old enough to be."
Right. Yeah.
To be in charge, and in the meantime I'm going to raise him in a way that is going to turn him into a lord.
Wouldn't be the worst idea I've ever heard.
Yeah. Yeah.
But has Cat found an ally in her Uncle Brynden?
Well, yeah.
You know, I mean, he seems like a pretty level-headed guy. Obviously, cares deeply for her, but he still serves the crazy one, meaning Lysa Arryn. So I don't know how much use he can technically be. Yeah, we'll find out.
And Tyrion and Bran continue to become friends.
Yeah, like you said earlier, you know, it depends on if Bran's playing the short game or the long game here. Short game, do what you're told by Cat.
Yeah, exactly. But I don't know what you do now. I mean, if you think about it, the only way out of the Vale is back the way they came.
Right.
They're going to need bodyguards for that journey too.
You would think. So.
Don't know where that's going.
And the Vale. I am in love with the description of the Vale.
Well, good. I'm glad.
Anything else?
No, I think we're good.
All right, me too.
All right. As always, you can reach us at ghost.harrenhall@gmail.com. Follow us on Twitter at ghostharrenhall, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
Yep, and if you please wouldn't mind going out and leaving us a review, iTunes, Apple Podcasts, podchaser.com, anywhere, that would really be great, would really help us out.
All right.
All right.
Well, as always, thanks for listening.
Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.